Hello and welcome to the left side of reality. Like this is your host as always, the first. Last time we began our work with Mountain of Smiling Bodies and managed to snag ourselves the armor, which is nice. This time we basically do the same thing, but with the weapons this time. So it's gonna be a rather chill stream. So, I was looking over my agents just now, and I have most of them more or less where I want them to. All except for some people down here, mainly this one, but I think also down here. Yeah, Emma's prudence is very yikes. So basically, this stream's gonna be a lot like the last stream, which is okay. We've had some very intense streams lately, so it's gonna be good to get back to something a bit more casual. Oh geez, that frickin' sucks. Okay, Emma, you go up here to where Snow Queen is, because we need your prudence work on ASAP. A little extra temperaments shouldn't be too bad for you either. Everyone else into the corridor. Now, what's our objective today for Mountain of Smiling Bodies? 196. So, a little under 400, basically. And we need to protect our... What does that mean? We need to keep our extraction clerks alive for as long as is humanly possible, because they are going to be the reason we can afford Mountain of Smiling Body stuff in any reasonable amount of time. You need to come over here and work on this guy. Everyone else can just do what they do, be in the corridor. Hang on. Okay, so today's ordeals is a Crimson Dawn and a Green Nude, which is just lovely, I say, with all the sarcasm I can muster. But anyways, while I'm setting all this up, you go up here for training. Hmm. So, today's topic while I'm doing this stream is to basically go into the latest Limbus Company content, which is the Unsevering. And this has definitely become a canto of, oh god, we are scared. So, the place we had left off is the fact that Tatiana, get your heart as always. So basically, when studying the spiral-shaped weapon, we get a flashback from Ryoshu, and flashbacks from the Sinners aren't like the biggest thing most of the time, except this time, the flashback is very clearly damaged. Which of course raises the question of, hey, what the hell is going on? Why is it like this? And therein kind of lies the rub. The interesting thing is that the way Ryoshu puts it, it's not something that it's not something she did to herself, is the implication from what I am to understand. She knows her memories are messed up, but she says she can't explain why they're like that. Which kind of leads people to say to think it might be because of the nurse fathers. But the thing is, their nurse fathers are actively trying to bring back Ryoshu's memories, so it would be kind of weird if they're the ones that messed up the memories in the first place. So kind of like, what the heck is going on here? Mind you, the fact that Ryoshu's memory was tampered with had actually been revealed in a very small way back in Honglu's Kanto, because there was this thing where okay, I need to figure out how I want to do smiling bodies. You can use these guys to try and, you need work on your temperaments. Who to send you to, though, is the thing. Like, your justice being at everything else is fine. Your temperaments is just awful. How did that happen? I would say you can work with Knight of Despair up here, then. Okay, back to the issue at hand. I'm gonna try this to see how well it works, and then go from there. We're probably gonna follow a similar vein of one and then the other. Or one agent and then Gabriella for Mountain. Gabriella needs work on their suppression anyways. Okay, a a meh. A meh is okay. As long as it's like in that general range, it should be fine. Oh right, you have the eye coverings now, so your repression work's always going to be a little boosted. That's going to be nice. Okay, Tatiana, do a round of this, so that then we can have Adam start working on it. So basically, as everyone takes a look at the situation, Otis basically suggests a bunch of possibilities for how this could have happened. And one such is that and she basically gets it right when she's like, okay, the attackers clearly made a point to sabotage all the containment units first to let out all the abnormalities and distortions, and then they struck. Which kind of raises the question of how on earth they managed to do that. And the next bit of the next corpses all have really weird, unclear wounds that makes it hard to know exactly what kind of weapon they were attacked with. And this actually triggers another flashback with what I believe is Index's nurse father, that talks about how to use 3 different kinds of weapons. And as you point out, they actually seem to align with our setup of blunt pierce slash. But the point being, Index nurse father seems to be able to use multiple weapons at once, which is kind of concerning. Because it kind of makes you wonder just kind of, how do we beat these people? Because it's only a part 1, but this group of fingers have basically given the impression of being nigh impossible to beat. And are being a step ahead of us. And it feels like we haven't really had like a truly decisive victory, so to speak, against them. That is the wrong abnormality. I was very confused for a second. Okay, Max, off to the right one. Right, the other thing I wanted to do is to kind of start boosting everyone and everything. The other thing is that there is no power anywhere in the building, and it is speculated that this was done in order to stop reinforcements from showing up. So like, whatever this plan was, it's been a long time in the making, and now it's in the middle of being rolled out. We haven't spotted a chink in the armor of this plan yet, which is concerning. So let's hope that we manage to find one soon. And I'm actually having a bit of okay, what can you do? You're basically maxed out on everything. You're maxed out on everything except temperaments and justice, and we're already kind of working on justice with smiling bodies. And I guess you, because you happen to be nearby. We have some, I'm actually having some mild trouble trying to fill in all of this. Okay. Pansy, I would say start working on your justice and attachment. Or no, your prudence. We do have Blue Star down there. And you're in Da Capo, so you could probably do that easily. Anyways, so after all the discussion about the current situation, there's some generic Pekatula fights, no need to go into those. So the next story node is about, yeah, Tier 1 and Tier 2. The thing I did with that was, I did a little game with myself where I would try to intentionally line up the weaknesses of the Pekatula instead of just throwing the most powerful attack I had on it automatically. As this day goes on, I'll figure out more and more what I want to do with it, and then that'll make it start going a bit faster, but... Hey Jose, what's up with you? You could use a little bit of work of everything except prudence. You do instinct on birth then. Boost up your other big stat. What about you, Misona? What's your general thing? Pretty well-rounded, too. You know what? You could probably do some insight work with Night of Despair. Just to boost that up a bit. And then maybe I'll also throw you on Instinct with Bird. For the team captains, at least as much as I can, I will focus on Fortitude, Prudence to max out to 130, and if there's time, then Justice. Temperaments and Justice are the ones I'm kind of more okay just sticking around the 100 mark. And basically focus on the "this agent does not die" button. Or this agent does not die stats. Okay, Porcubus. Maxim, since I'm working on your... Wait. Okay, 3 or lower. Okay, that's fine. I'm working on your attack stat right now, so do that. The good news on what happens next is that we do meet up with Alyssa. The bad news is that she has whatever mysterious spiral-shaped weapon that a bunch of other people died from, kind of stuck in her chest. Her story is very similar to the story we got before. Her story more or less lines up pretty well with what we thought was happening anyways, which is to say, okay, this was business as normal for everyone until it wasn't. And the other thing is that they lean on the fourth wall a bit when Alyssa says that a Hohenheim quote is, "We are not the main characters of the story, so we can only see if the proverbial coin flips heads or tails." Which, ouch. You did not have to put it that bluntly, Hohenheim. Why are you like this? Okay, that was a very good work, Maxim. That should help us a lot. Okay, not doing that again, so cross it off the proverbial list. Next was you working on your god-awful attachment. So anyways, from what I remember, Alyssa basically says that when everything went to shit, she was caught off guard, and so when she woke up from being unconscious, she had the spiral thing in her chest. Of course, Alyssa's account also gives us a detail that is distressing, in that part of the reason that no one had been prepared is that the alarms that were supposed to warn everyone that something was wrong never went off, which is kind of like, So many fail-safes failed that it starts to become more than a little suspicious. Although, if there is some kind of traitor in the mix, it makes you wonder for what motive. Like if it was some kind of mole that was planted ahead of time for this plan, or whatever. What Alyssa ends up doing is making everyone a map of where everyone else probably is, and saying, "Hey, go see if they're still okay." because Alyssa herself is in no real shape to do much of anything. Which of course then raises the question of why they can't just remove the weapon from Melissa's chest, and that's where we learn the particulars of what this weapon is. And the short version is that it's a custom-made weapon. The fact that it's a spiral is important. It's called a paradoxal spiral, where when it pierces a target's chest, it keeps spinning, but the more it spins, the deeper into a human body it goes, the slower it spins, so it never goes through the other side. It remains stuck there. And it basically means that the person that got afflicted by the weapon can't move lest they make the wound even worse. And it puts a time limit because there's still a hole in your chest, so you're still going to be bleeding, if slowly. And of course, you can't pull it back out, because that just causes the spiral to tear through everything that it touched and got tangled with. In other words, it sounds very possible that Alyssa may just be screwed. However, this is when we get a flashback with Ryoshu again. It's garbled up like the other flashbacks are, but they do manage to pick up some details from it. Mainly that there is a way to remove the spiral weapon safely, but you need some kind of passcode. This actually goes into a side conversation where they ask if this spiral is locked, could you unlock it with a fairy? And it's basically answered yes, but with the complexity of the lock, it might need a suitably expensive fairy. Also, sadly, we don't have a fairy just lying around that we could use. Although I think it's still kind of nice that the possibility was acknowledged, like, hey, this technology exists that could deal with this problem, and then they say, in theory, yes, we just don't have any on hand at the moment. And another thing that is not really a big surprise is that it's also not a matter of just guessing the combinations, because the spiral kills you if you get too many wrong ones. So it kind of seems like although because Ryoshu's memories are so fragmented, a lot of it comes from, it's actually something of a team effort. Ryoshu has the memories, Dante picks them up, Dante tells these memories to Faust, and then Faust takes the information she's given, plus the weapon's appearance, and looks it up in the Faust Discord. So even though Alyssa's predicament only has the slimmest of hope, the reason it has any hope at all is because we have so many different sources of information on hand. And Alyssa decides to engage in some gallows humor and basically say, you know what, I've kind of accepted my death, and hey, at least this probably won't end up in a 100 dumbest ways to 100 dumbest ways to die book. What was that about brute force? Go back to your point. Of course the noon is immediately after the dawn. Why wouldn't it be? Why would this game have any mercy at all? Okay, this next bit might actually be a little sticky, because we need to get through a noon without triggering our friend here, the Mountain of Smiling Bodies. Because Mountain is a flat 10 death before he breaks out. The scene we get after that is basically Don Quixote basically trying to give Alyssa the will to live by saying, if you hide as best as you can, then we will come back for you and we will save you. And this isn't Dawn making some flippant promise. She actually looks rather serious about it. So it's like, it feels like that definitely is going to come back later. Either we do get the passcode for the spiral and come back to have even the smallest victory, or we fail and Sancho has a very bad time. It's one or the other. Okay, where are we at for boxes on Mountain? We've officially cracked 200. So just gotta do the other 200. Okay, 216, and Gabriella hasn't even gone yet. So that's good. The price of making it to the pinnacle of existence. Not having eyes anymore. But anyways, you had actually decided to take a bit of a detour to look at Index Faust. And here's the thing. It is very hard to tell what an ID is going to do just by looking at text on a page. Not to say the text on the page isn't important, because it is, but it kind of feels like your eyes start to glaze over when you see all these terms being thrown around. Because Faust's big thing is getting press scripts, fulfilling the press scripts, and gathering steam like that, as far as I can understand. Yeah, there is like the very harsh penalty you get from screwing up the press scripts. Although, if we're talking IDs anyway, it's kind of curious that we've had 3 IDs in the season so far, and they've all been some kind of flavor of syncing. I almost ran my syncing team for the Kanto just because of it, but I decided against it, and good thing too, because syncing wouldn't develop. Ugh, I hate these bots. Elaborate on that. The thing is, we have like 2 or 3 IDs that basically put Rodian in the cornerstone of a syncing team. Like, you wouldn't be running a syncing team without her. So there is that to consider. It's very hard to tell how long the given cutscene is gonna be. Anyways, I guess to go into something slightly more cheerful, there's a minor meme where Ishmael straight up says the words, "This is fishy." And everyone's just been having a lot of fun with that. But it's not like she doesn't have good reason to say that, because the next story content begins with where one of the story contents is about her talking about, hey, it kind of feels like we're being led down a path and I don't like that. It is kind of nice that Erogen immediately says, well, Ishmael can't have read the map wrong. That's just not a thing she does. Anyways. I forget where, but I saw a post pointing out the unique fun of playing Lalafell, because every cutscene in the game has to be tuned towards a warrior of light of whatever race they are, and for Lalafells in particular, because they're so small, when it comes to cutscenes of Lalafells beating on opponents, they have to adjust the fight choreography respectively. I think they said, I think I saw that, like, the person that played Lalafell very much enjoyed the cutscene of beating up Xenos, I think is one it was, at the end of Endwalker, I think. Yeah, Endwalker. Like, there's the final one-on-one showdown between Xenos and the Warrior of Light at the end of Endwalker, and people who use Lalafells just have the time of their lives. A similar video, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, is, at least I think it's what it was, I don't quite remember, is that for, what was the name of the Final Fantasy XIV plot that had Yotsuyu in it? Yotsuyu. Might have been a while since you've heard it, but it was basically the... Okay, now, you remember now that you've heard it. Stormblood. I thought it was Stormblood, but I wasn't sure. But anyways, so Yotsuyu has the whole thing she goes through, where at first she is unambiguously a villain, and then circumstances happen that give her amnesia, and it actually suggests the idea that she could be redeemed. And for a while, it seems like she might have been, even though there were complications. And then her cousin / adoptive brother shows up. And basically, there was a video I saw once of the cutscene where that adoptive brother revealed they were evil, and that the whole plan was to make Yotsuyu evil as well. But the video had the person with their I know how the race is spelled, but I forget how to pronounce it. But like, the biggest Final Fantasy XIV race that's playable. Yeah, Rogadun. Anyway, someone playing a Rogadun Warrior of Light, basically going into a scenario where they just take the adoptive brother and just beat the ever-loving shit out of them. Because let's face it, that's what was on everyone's mind during that that cutscene twist. Because it was literally like, come on, it was going so well, why'd this have to happen? Back to Limbus Company. So yeah, Ishmael, being super observant, sees that the facility seems to be specially arranged to funnel the sinners down a particular path, and she doesn't like it. The kind of unfortunate thing is that, unfortunately, it doesn't matter that Ishmael is correct. We have no choice but to go down the path anyways. Okay, before we do more Limbus talk, unfortunately we have a green noon to do. This is gonna be the most stressful part of the day. I'll pause as soon as Misona finishes her work here. So, is Green Noon like a one in every department thing? Okay, cool. Then I'm going to trigger it, and then I'm going to see where that lands us. You are Red Week, so you can be in a unit when all of this kicks off. It's safer for you that way. Okay, Max already got their hands on one of them, so I would say a red shield for them, and they should be fine. I'm gonna do that right now. Basically going to make all of safety descend on them. That seems like the best way to do that. Okay. Here's the central command one, so I'm just gonna have Jose start on it. He should be able to solo it. Oh, that's a... Okay, just to be safe, I'm gonna execute both of you to minimize interference. Okay, who can take care of the information one pretty effectively? You're red weak, so I don't feel good about that. You should be not too much of a problem. I would say put a red shield over here. No, that's execution. Whoops. That's a clerk, I'm pretty sure. Although I don't want to use an execution bullet. Or no, wait. No, that isn't. That is heaven. So red shield and red shield. And execution for you, and execution for you. Okay, well, I was thinking about how to handle information. I would say information can be Tatiana. He can probably reach it there fast enough. Because everyone else in information, I'm not sure I would trust them with that. I'm using more red bullets than execution at the moment. Okay, Misona and Galena have this area, so they should have it well covered. Okay, there's the second Central Command one. So I would say execute every clerk on the bottom floor. Because those bullets are far-reaching. I guess the question is, who's gonna take care of these? Who can? Okay. Disciplinary can be taken care of by these two if I wanted to. Just put red bullets on them. Because what's that? Sound of Star and Life for Daredevil. Yeah, that might be feasible. Or at the very least, they can keep him busy while I do other stuff. I am actually almost going to run out of bullets here. Okay, that's the disciplinary one. For second Central Command... Gabriella. I didn't want to do anything to the extraction clerks unless I could at all help it, so... Well, the good news is that just about everyone down here is custom made to deal with heavy red damage, so it might be fine. You mean these over here? The ones that aren't protected by agents? And the last two bullets I'll use on these agents here. I'll use some on these two and kind of send them to distract the noon while Gabriella is incoming. Welfare. Welfare's a bit ugly. Okay, I'll worry about welfare in a bit. What about records? welfare and records are probably in by far the stickiest spots, because I don't really have an A key to deal with them. Bella could maybe do good there, but then it leads the question of what to do about you. Okay, Emma, you could probably solo Noon, so do that. For this elevator one, I would say Bella, since she has decent red resistance, and London because Gold Rush. That should be everything we could do. So I think at this point we have no choice but to run it. That's 3 welfare clerks immediately dead. How I hate that. Okay, the good news is that it seems we killed them, a lot of them. The bad news is that we did lose a counter, so that must have been 10 of them. So now he's just gonna be like that until further notice. I hate that so much. He lost 2 counter. So yeah, that confirms that it was 10. Also, there's a graphics glitch there. That corner will just do that forever now, or at least until the end of the day. Okay. Fingers crossed that there's nothing else. That we can wrap this up before the dusk happens. Because if the dusk happens, it's breaking out. There's no two ways about it. We're at 246 right now, so that should be possible. I guess the kind of quote-unquote good news is that it's saving enough extraction perks means that it's the price of the hammers is going to stay cheap. As long as that remains true, we should be able to do this without much issue. So where the heck were we even for Limbus? If it absolutely comes down to it, next cycle I'm willing to push 3 works instead of 2. Just to kind of do that final little push. Anyway, it's 3 abnormality fights back to back, or at least on back-to-back nodes. And they're all abnormalities we've seen before, but a kind of demonstration of, look, this is how bad it would be like if they weren't under Clyfoth deterrence. I sympathize. Oh, that's not even the worst of it. Not only is Fey Lantern a clerk's right abnormality, but it's also like Silent Orchestra. Or at least it's like Silent Orchestra in that it punishes good works. Do you think it's safe to push a third work? No, wait. Let's gamble on a free work of Smiling Bodies for the next round, because that is a distinct possibility. Something that caught my attention a bit about Fey Lantern is that so basically, while you could in theory do any content in Limbus with any team if you were stubborn enough, they do certain important fights do push one over the other, or one status over the other. In the case of Fey Lantern, it actually low-key encourages a poise build, because this version of Fey Lantern has a passive that no other version has, and that every time you break break the fairy, it gives you poise count. Oh, it appeared in Refraction Railway first? Shows what I know. But yeah, the point is we get poise teams would get a little extra help in this specific occasion. Uh, fittingly, being the first fight, Bay Lantern is also the simplest, because it doesn't have anything all that special besides the fairy turns where a bunch of your sinners get put under the sway, and you're encouraged to basically destroy the fairy in one go, otherwise they get hit by a mass attack. Other than that, Bay Lantern is actually fairly simple. Which, it's only a 10th, so I guess that tracks. Anyway, partway through the fight, it shows a basically a little leaflet page made by Moses, which is where we get all this information. But aside from the fun little lore bits, the other thing it does is give everyone a slight boost against Fey Lantern to make it that much easier to take down. So basically, to sum up Fey Lantern, it's like destroy the fairy in one round, have attacks ready to clash with the rest of Fey Lantern's moves, and just kind of try to burn it down as fast as possible, so you don't have too much trouble with it. Pretty simple. I suppose the other thing to note is that a solo fight could be something you could do here, because in order to stop an unwinnable scenario, the charmed mechanic doesn't push in with doesn't activate with a solo sinner. But then you also have to deal with destroy the fairy part in one go with only one sinner. Anything else in particular that we wanted to say about Fey Lantern before we moved on? But anyways, if Fey Lantern is considered simple, then Wayward Passenger is most definitely not. Because Wayward Passenger has its Wayward Passenger rolls very high by default. I vividly remember that from the first time I ran into it in the Mirror Dungeon. A kind of, whoa, what the hell is up with this guy suddenly rolling so high that nothing can reach it? If I personally were to describe Wayward Passenger, is that it requires you to have a skill 3 matching the affinity of all the portals ready by the turn the portals are there, which isn't exactly easy to do. The affinities are Wrath, Sloth, Gloom, and Gluttony. And I don't think it's the easiest thing to get powerful attacks of all those affinities at the ready to satiate the portals. Which kind of goes into the other thing that makes this fight a problem. Because you need to take care of the portals in one go, otherwise they all transfer their own unique buff to Wayward Passenger. Do you want to guess what particular skill I had a deficit of that made life difficult for me? Okay, cool. Correct. I did not have any gloom skills, so the gloom portal was not something I could take out. I think I mentioned that I was using a burn team, which should tell you just how much gloom I had available. I take a different viewpoint to that. I personally feel like, as has been the trend for a while now, the game wants you to be okay with letting sinners die. Because that's more or less how I handle these abnormality fights. I lined things up as best as I could, and if I lost a sinner or two, I did have backup, and it's just gonna like, okay, just gonna keep pushing. It ain't over till it's over. It makes battles messy, but as this playthrough has shown, I'm not the type to give up just because things get a little messy. But it is true that you are kind of expected to have something good at the ready at all times, because while the Wayward Passenger has its arm parts up and running, it'll keep using a powerful attack. So break the arms ASAP or be ready to contend with Rip Space. Yeah, that kind of figures, because, like, Wrath and Gloom are kind of opposites of each other. Okay, we did get a free work on Mountain. That actually is very good. Okay, that is the best lineup I could have hoped for. I can see if I can get the 400 I need. Well, it's not even 400. It's like 290 some odd. But the point is, try to see if I can't get the hammers here and pull the plug on the day before something really bad happens. Although speaking of burn key, the one upshot of it is that, okay, Wayward Passenger has the thing he does, where Wayward Passenger has that thing he does, where it has an abnormality check with where it has an abnormality skill check where if you succeed, you basically get a free stagger turn. And something I am quickly learning is that come on, Maxim, heal up so you can go to work again. Magic Bullet Otis is perhaps one of the best units for skill checks, because even the floor of her skill can pass quite a lot of them, including this one. So anyways, once you get... I'm actually gonna get one hammer now. Or, okay, I'm gonna do the work with Gabriella and see if that pushes us to have enough. And if it isn't enough, how much more we need. Okay, what was I saying? Once you beat the skill check for Wayward Passenger, it's an automatic stagger turn. So that is a turn for you to go, okay, what are my best skills? Destroy. So even though I was dealing with a Wayward Passenger that had a 2 coin boost, which was not fun, I was still able to beat it because I knew that, hey, at this turn, it's going to be vulnerable, so I just have to pile on the damage at that time. Might that be enough? 3 boxes short, what the hell? That is some bullshit. I really don't want to go again just to do this. Do a whole other cycle. So I'm gonna throw Gabriella at it for instant work. Because it only drops its life off at bad, right? Yeah, only on bad. So a meh isn't gonna matter. Just need you to finish this work. And then we're home free. 3 boxes though, that's upsetting. Okay, yeah, I think we've passed the threshold of bad already, so we're good. We take those. Adios, Tay. Okay, what's our end result here? Risona got some minor boosts to her stats. The Pansy's SP had a massive boost, as did her Justice. Jose's was only okay. Gabriella maxed out on Temperaments and Justice. Nice. Well, maybe not quite Temperaments, but Justice definitely. Okay. 79 attachment. Definitely much better than before. Why the hell was it at 60? Okay, Fortitude maxed out. Just gonna get to the 3 to 4 Prudence. Okay, that's more or less what we wanted. And Justice at 4. Okay, cool. Moving on. Okay, we read this before. You told me to sacrifice all of your body without hesitation. Would you have made the same choice if you knew we would end up like this? I always asked myself that. This is no man's land, the place of silence. Most employees that visit and stay here lose their mind and embrace oblivion. It has been a long while since I had a proper conversation with someone. Maybe you were confused with the idea that I'm the only resident here. But there is, in fact, a companion of mine that passes the eternity with me. Let me introduce her to you. You created the bucket by reconstructing, dividing, and proliferating Carmen's body. And you managed to extract Cogito, the so-called fluid of life and death. At first, only a small dose could be extracted, but enigmatically that fluid started to gush out infinitely, and now has formed a pool. Can you see her? She's watching us from underneath the spring. When everything becomes too burdening, I quietly stare into the bottom. I feel as if she and I were the only two in the world when I do so. Sometimes it feels like she's talking to me. Oh, interesting. That's something that becomes very relevant later. Even though all that's left of her is just an amalgamation of flesh, brain, and neurons and unknown tentacles drifting beneath the spring. Someone injected herself with cogito following her own principles, and someone else went mad for witnessing what happened. Another gave up his own body and fell into a state of limbo, unable to live or die. And the one that couldn't persevere herself through all of this ended up confessing everything to the head. So basically all the Sephira. This is the collaboration of despair that you and her created. You still aren't qualified to look toward the bottom of the spring. To do so, you must look directly towards the path you travel. Do you seek redemption? Or do you seek to redeem me along with all the others that are trapped here? Whatever it is, maybe you think that saving this facility from sin, as you have planned, will fix everything for you. Just think for a moment, even you, who hasn't left this facility for such a long time. You should be aware that people are hopelessly being killed by abnormalities in other branches even as we speak. And it's not just them. All wings have their own painful stories, repeating perpetually. In the nests, in the back streets, in the ruins, in the outskirts, a pain much greater than what you have seen here prevails in the world. I have observed everything conscientiously, for I didn't obsess myself with an unreachable ideal to lock myself in a cramped room like you. The world you looked up at and the one I looked down upon are that much different. The Binah voice wreaks havoc on my throat. A good thing I have more liquid. You captured me alive and tortured me to your heart's content, but still were sunken in despair. And someone will replace me as one of the arbiters of the head, swinging their claws at people like you. Even if you were to break the cycle somehow, it would be a perfectly, completely useless affair. Broken wings will outstretch anew. The brief resistance will be forgotten soon, and people will continue living, not for a purpose nor a dream, but simply because they cannot die. You may think you have brought me down, yet as you can see, I'm still at the peak, looking down upon you lot while you ride like insects. I eagerly await the moment you fall into despair after realizing that this cycle of pain will never end. I want to see you kneel before the might of destiny, resigning yourself to fate. Go on, slowly, despair and succumb to your fate. Try to resist to the very end and ultimately break yourself as the last bits of your resistance melt away. We shall be subterranean water that quietly flows underneath the earth. She was mortally wounded by Kali, but she was her only way out. It was a miracle that we captured her alive. We were too far down the road filled with remorse and regret to feel any sort of guilt. How to avoid the head's pursuit, the means to join the ranks of the wings, and the way for us, the few, to survive. It was impossible to figure out those on our own. She was hardly breathing, but her encephalon was still active. That was all we needed. We probed through her head like we did to Carmen. We searched for the way out. After that, we arduously gave up every single bit of those we arduously gather up every single bit of those deformed pieces. The sentinel who guards the gates of hell must always be in despair. Such despair that they cannot even fall into the depths of hell. So, two things. First, they really busted out the violin for that scene. And two, when did this turn into Danganronpa? But yeah, next time on the left side of reality, this. Oh no! Okay, first we gotta figure out where to put our new hammers. Temperaments 5, level 5. Who has a lamp right now? Lamarcus and Noah. Maybe not. But the thing is, everyone currently has what they have on for a reason. Life for a Daredevil, Grinder Mark IV, and some Harvest. Well, I suppose I could throw it on the Harvest wielders, yeah. So that's Owen up in, no, Owen in safety. The only two he weapons left are Grinder Mark IV, which I'm keeping for my own reasons, and Life for a Daredevil just for extra pale damage. Everything else from this point is Vav and Aleph. Oh, except for Fourth Match Flame, and that's also there for a special reason. Yeah. I guess anything else we can figure out next time. Because we're gonna need every last possible advantage we can get. I still remember Geburah and how messy that was, and this is gonna be 10 times worse. Pray for me.